It was the hottest summer night Paris had ever witnessed. The air hung thick and suffocating over the city, as if the very atmosphere conspired to amplify the tension that gripped every soul. The Eiffel Tower's lights pierced through the humid darkness, casting eerie shadows that danced across the Seine River like ghostly fingers reaching for something just beyond their grasp. But tonight, the world's eyes weren't on Paris's iconic landmarks. They were fixed on the Parc des Princes, where football history was about to be written in blood, sweat, and the tears of legends. PSG versus Juventus, Champions League semi-final, two titans of the beautiful game locked in mortal combat. Yet what would unfold on that cursed pitch wasn't just a match, it was a psychological warfare between two men who had transcended the sport itself. Cristiano Ronaldo and Neymar Jr., two gods among mortals, each carrying the weight of their own demons, their own desperate hunger for immortality. The stadium pulsed with an energy that felt almost supernatural. 90,000 voices merged into a single, deafening roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of Paris. But beneath the cacophony, there was something darker lurking, a tension so thick you could taste the metallic fear on your tongue. Neymar stood in the tunnel, his hands trembling slightly as he adjusted his captain's armband. For years, the Ballon d'Or had haunted his dreams like a specter that refused to be exorcised. Tonight, in front of Ronaldo, the five-time winner, the man who had claimed the throne, Neymar desperately craved he would prove that the crown belonged to him. His eyes were wild with a mixture of determination and something bordering on madness. The pressure had been building for months, consuming him from within like a slow-burning fire. Every missed opportunity, every second-place finish, every whisper that he would never be as good as Messi or Ronaldo had carved deep wounds in his psyche. Meanwhile, in the opposing tunnel, Ronaldo stood like a marble statue, his face a mask of cold calculation. At 38, he could feel time's relentless march threatening to strip away everything he had built. The young wolves were circling, their hunger sharp and their legs fresh. But Ronaldo wasn't ready to abdicate his throne, not to Neymar, not to anyone. His mind was a fortress of steel, honed by years of conquering the impossible. 5 Champions League titles, 5 Ballon d'Ors, records that seemed untouchable. But records meant nothing if you couldn't defend them. Tonight wasn't just about advancing to the final, it was about sending a message that the king still ruled his kingdom. The referee's whistle pierced through the stadium's roar like a blade cutting through flesh. As the teams emerged from the tunnel, the temperature seemed to drop several degrees, as if the very air recognized the magnitude of what was about to unfold. From the opening second, it was clear this wouldn't be an ordinary match. The football seemed secondary to the invisible war being waged between two men who had transcended the sport itself. Every touch, every glance, every movement carried the weight of 1,000 battles fought in silence. Neymar's first touch sent electricity through the crowd. He collected the ball on the left wing, his body language screaming defiance. The Brazilian's eyes locked onto Ronaldo's position, 30 yards away, and for a split second, time seemed to freeze. It was as if the entire stadium could feel the psychic energy crackling between them. Then Neymar exploded into motion. His trademark step-over was faster than lightning, leaving the first defender grasping at shadows. Another defender approached, and Neymar nutmegged him with such casual arrogance that it felt like an insult. The crowd's roar intensified, but there was something unsettling about it, a bloodthirsty quality that suggested they sensed something more than football was at stake. Ronaldo watched from his position, his jaw clenched so tightly that his teammates could see the muscles in his face twitching. When Neymar inevitably lost the ball after an overly ambitious attempt to beat 3 defenders, Ronaldo's eyes flashed with something that might have been satisfaction or perhaps hunger. The first 20 minutes passed in a blur of tactical chess moves and psychological mind games. Every foul was a statement. Every celebration was a taunt. The crowd could feel the tension building like a storm, gathering strength, and they fed off it, their cheers becoming more frenzied with each passing moment. PSG struck first through a Mbappé header, and Neymar's celebration was directed straight at Ronaldo. He spread his arms wide, his face tilted toward the night sky, and for a moment he looked less like a footballer and more like a pagan god demanding worship. The stadium erupted, but Ronaldo's expression remained unchanged, a statue carved from ice and determination. Juventus equalized 10 minutes later through a defensive error, and Ronaldo's reaction was subtle but devastating. He didn't celebrate wildly like his teammates. Instead, he simply pointed to the sky with one finger, his eyes never leaving Neymar's face. It was a gesture that said, "I've done this 1,000 times before, boy. This is just the beginning." The psychological warfare intensified as the first half wore on. Every tackle became a personal vendetta. Every pass was weighted with meaning beyond the tactical. The referee struggled to maintain control as both teams seemed to be playing a different game entirely, one governed by pride, ego, and the desperate need to prove superiority. Neymar grew more erratic as the pressure mounted. His decision-making became increasingly questionable, his trademark flair replaced by a manic energy that worried even his most ardent supporters. He was trying to do too much, to prove too much, and Ronaldo could sense the blood in the water like a shark detecting its prey's weakness. The halftime whistle brought no respite. In the PSG dressing room, Neymar sat alone in the corner, his head in his hands. The weight of expectation pressed down on him like a crushing force. His teammates tried to offer encouragement, but their words bounced off him like rain off stone. He could see it in their eyes, the doubt, the concern that their star player was cracking under the pressure. Meanwhile, Ronaldo used the break to study video replays of Neymar's first-half performance. He wasn't just watching the Brazilian's technique, he was analyzing his body language, his emotional state, searching for the cracks in his psychological armor. It was predatory behavior, the methodology of a hunter who had survived at the top for nearly 2 decades. When the teams returned for the second half, something had shifted in the atmosphere. The crowd seemed to sense that they were about to witness something extraordinary and possibly terrible. The very air felt charged with electricity, as if lightning might strike at any moment. The defining moment came in the 68th minute, and it unfolded like a scene from a fever dream. Neymar received the ball in his own penalty area, surrounded by white Juventus shirts. Logic dictated he should clear it to safety, but logic had abandoned him long ago. Instead, he began one of the most audacious runs in Champions League history. He nutmegged the first defender with contemptuous ease, then ghosted past the second with a body feint that left the man stumbling. The crowd rose as one, sensing something magical was happening. Neymar accelerated through midfield, his legs pumping like pistons, his eyes fixed on the goal 60 yards away. Ronaldo watched from his position, and something flickered across his face. Respect, perhaps, or recognition of a kindred spirit driven by the same obsessive need for greatness. But respect was a luxury he couldn't afford tonight. As Neymar approached, Ronaldo positioned himself perfectly, reading the Brazilian's movement like a grandmaster anticipating his opponent's next 3 moves. The collision was inevitable, two unstoppable forces meeting at the center of the universe. Neymar attempted his signature move, a subtle touch to the left followed by a lightning-quick cut to the right. But Ronaldo had studied this trick for years, had dissected it frame by frame in his mind. His timing was absolutely perfect. The slide tackle was a thing of beauty and brutality combined. Ronaldo's foot connected with the ball a split second before Neymar could complete his move, sending it spinning away toward the touchline. But it was what happened next that would haunt the football world for years to come. As Neymar fell, his face twisted in a mixture of pain and disbelief. Ronaldo was already rising, already moving, the ball at his feet. The stadium held its collective breath as the Portuguese maestro surged forward, his legs finding their familiar rhythm despite his age. He had stolen not just the ball, but Neymar's moment of glory, transforming it into his own masterpiece. What followed was 20 yards of pure poetry written in grass stains and sweat. Ronaldo glided past the defenders as if they were traffic cones, his first touch perfect, his second even better. The PSG goalkeeper came rushing out, his face a mask of desperation. But Ronaldo had already calculated the angles, already visualized the perfect trajectory. The shot was struck with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel and the power of a thunderbolt. It flew through the humid Paris air like a guided missile, past Neymar's sprawled form, past the goalkeeper's desperate dive, past the reaching fingers of physics itself. The net bulged with such violence that it seemed to scream, Juventus to -1. The stadium erupted in chaos, but at the center of it all, Ronaldo's celebration was a masterclass in psychological warfare. He didn't run to the corner flag or leap into the arms of his teammates. Instead, he turned toward the spot where Neymar still lay on the ground, placed a single finger to his lips in a gesture of silence, and smiled a cold, terrifying smile that spoke of battles won and legends broken. Neymar remained on the grass for several long seconds, staring up at the Parisian sky as if searching for answers among the stars. The weight of failure pressed down on him like a physical force, crushing his chest until each breath became a struggle. Around him, the stadium continued its celebration of his humiliation, each cheer another nail in the coffin of his Champions League dreams. When he finally rose to his feet, something had changed in his eyes. The manic energy was gone, replaced by a hollow emptiness that was somehow more frightening than his earlier desperation. Around him, the stadium continued its celebration of his humiliation, each cheer another nail in the coffin of his Champions League dreams. When he finally rose to his feet, something had changed in his eyes. The manic energy was gone, replaced by a hollow emptiness that was somehow more frightening than his earlier desperation. His teammates approached cautiously, as if afraid he might shatter like glass if touched. But Neymar was beyond consolation now, trapped in a prison of his own making. The final 20 minutes played out like a funeral march. PSG threw everything forward in desperate waves, but their attacks lacked coordination, lacking the spark that only belief can provide. Neymar drifted through the game like a ghost, his touches heavy with the weight of shattered dreams. Ronaldo, meanwhile, seemed to feed off his rival's despair. Every defensive action was perfectly timed, every counter-attack precisely executed. He had broken more than just PSG's resistance, he had broken Neymar's spirit, and everyone in the stadium could feel it. As the referee's watch ticked toward 90 minutes, the atmosphere in the Parc des Princes became almost suffocating. The PSG fans had long since fallen silent, their voices stolen by the crushing reality of their team's collapse. In the VIP boxes, legends of the game watched in stunned silence, recognizing they were witnessing something historic, the passing of a torch that would never actually change hands. The final whistle came like a mercy killing. Juventus players erupted in celebration, while PSG's stars collapsed to the turf in various states of devastation. But all eyes were on two men: Ronaldo, standing tall like a conquering emperor, and Neymar, crumpled on the center circle like a fallen angel. What happened next would become the stuff of legend, whispered in football academies and analyzed by sports psychologists for generations to come. Ronaldo approached Neymar slowly, deliberately, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence that had fallen over the stadium. The Brazilian didn't look up, couldn't look up, his head buried in his hands as tears streamed between his fingers. When Ronaldo reached him, he paused for a moment, studying the broken man at his feet. Then, with a gentleness that seemed impossible from someone who had just delivered such ruthless psychological punishment, he placed a hand on Neymar's shoulder. The stadium held its breath, sensing they were witnessing something profound. Ronaldo leaned down, his lips close to Neymar's ear, and whispered words that only the Brazilian could hear. Those who read lips later claimed they caught fragments: "Greatness, your time, not today." But the exact words mattered less than their effect. Neymar's sobbing intensified, not from additional pain, but from a release that seemed to come from his very soul. When Ronaldo finally walked away, leaving Neymar alone on the pitch, the stadium began to empty. But the image remained burned into the retinas of everyone who witnessed it: two legends, one triumphant and one shattered, connected by an invisible thread of understanding that transcended rivalry, transcended sport itself. In the coming days, newspapers would analyze the tactics, the statistics, the implications for both team seasons. But those who were there that night knew they had witnessed something far more significant than a football match. They had seen the moment when one era ended and another began, when the torch of greatness was held firmly in the grip of its current owner, who had proven once again that he was nowhere near ready to pass it on. The lights of the Eiffel Tower continued to pierce the Parisian darkness, but they seemed dimmer somehow, overshadowed by the brilliant, terrible light of a legend who refused to fade into the night.